We'll start the Mishnah of Testament base. On the bottom, new parak. So this parak is discussing things that are intrinsically might be mutter to do on Yantif. However, because they're uvda l'chol, because they're a weekday activity, they're done in the weekday. We don't do them on Yantif if they look like the weekday activity, and therefore we have to change it as much as possible. Let's see the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, if you're moving barrels of wine from one place to the next, so normally what you would do is you would move many barrels, you would put them, you're not allowed to put it in a basket or a box. So normally you would put a few barrels in a basket or a box and carry it that way all at once. So how are you allowed to carry it? You're allowed to take some barrels, instead of putting it in a box or a basket, you can take some barrels and carry it on your shoulder, which is not the norm. Or you can carry it in front of you. And also somebody that moves straw, you shouldn't carry it like slung on your back, which is the normal thing to do during the week. You're allowed to carry it with your hands. Okay. Now the Mishnah says another halacha. You're allowed to go to the storage of wheat, of straw, and use the straw from the storage. Now the thing is like this. Normally whatever I don't have in mind to use is muktzah. So the storage is normally not used. Right? Things that are in storage are not used. I didn't have in mind to use it. However, over here we see you are allowed to use the straw from the storage because there's not a problem of muktzah. It's going according to the Mand Omer that doesn't hold of muktzah. The problem is the next words are just the opposite. However, you're not allowed to use wood sheba muktzah. Muktzah is like the back part of the house where nobody goes and it's set aside. There's some wood there, and you're not allowed to use muktzah. However, you are not allowed to use the wood that's in the muktzah, that's in the back. Why? Because it was out of your head to use. It's muktzah mekatza daita. He did not have in mind to use it in Yantif. So the first part of the Mishnah, where we learned about the straw, we see that the muktzah is not a problem on Yantif. However, the second part of the Mishnah says that the muktzah is something. Is it Isser on Yantif? So we'll see the Gemara ask the question. Okay, but let's go back to the beginning of the Mishnah, the first part of the Mishnah. Let's see the Gemara. Tana, we learned that that's true. That things that are usher to do in Yantif only because they look like a weekday activity. So therefore we have to change it as much as possible. What happens if you cannot change it? Tana, if you cannot change the way you do it, then it's mutter to do anyway, because it's not intrinsically usher. It's just Asr because of the chol. If I can't change it, so you can't change it, it's still mutter. Asking Rava Mechuzah. Rava was Mesakin Takana and Mechuzah in the place of Mechuzah, and he said as follows: the daru b'duchka, anything that's carried on a shoulder. In order to change, what you should do is a daru b'ragla, you should carry it with a pitchfork. The daru b'ragla, things that are normally carried in the weekday with a pitchfork. The daru b'agra, you should carry it on a pole with two people. The daru ba'agra, things that are normally carried ba'agra. The daru ba'achva, you should carry it with one pole. The daru ba'achva, what happens? Things that are normally carried in the weekday with achva, with one pole. So it seems like the Rishonim say that and it's carried, let's say, different ways also, obviously, because I can't change. Then Nifrei Sudra Aluya. You should, in order to differentiate, you should just spread some type of shmata, some cloth on top of it, and that'll be differentiated between the action of the way it's done in the weekday. Vim lo yafshar. And if for some reason I can't spread a cloth over it, shari, then it's mutter. Damar miyavshel shana is mutter, because we learned that if it's not possible to change, then it's mutter anyway.
So the im lo afshar applies to all the previous cases, or just the last one?
So it seems that the previous cases can be changed. So it's not really a case; it's more of a category. So, right? No, it's a category. It's meaning that it's not example. It's not a real example. It's just a category of things that are normally carried in a certain fashion. You should change it to a different fashion. And what happens if I can't? So then it's mutter. So that means that, let's say I don't know. Let's say you have a bottle of soda. I don't know if there's. I guess it's carried in many different ways, so it's hard to change. Right? There are certain things that are carried many different ways. So what are you going to change it to? There's no change that can be done. Amalei Rav Chanan by Rava l'Ravashi. Amar Rabbanan kama de'efshel shenui meshenina b'yom yitava. You should change as much as possible. So if you're telling me that's true, The women that go fill up the water, the buckets of water, on Yontif like and they don't change, they don't differentiate. And nobody tells them that they're doing not according to halacha. Nobody protests. You know why over there nobody says anything to them? That it's asur? Mishum because it's not possible for them to differentiate. What do you want them to do? If normally they fill in a big barrel, you want them to fill in a small barrel. Now the idea is that we try to make Yontif as least stressful, strenuous as possible. So if you're going to fill up with a big barrel, and then now you're going to force them to fill up with a bunch of small barrels, you're going to make them, you're going to force them to go many times, and many times. It's also strenuous. So then you can tell me, you know what the case is? Normally they fill up with a small barrel. And you want them to fill in a big barrel. You're going to add on to their weight of carrying. So you're also making it more strenuous. Anyway, so what do you want them to do?
So which is the greater tircha? I mean, the fact that you have to go multiple times, or the thing is heavier?
Right, but the point of the Gemara is that whatever you're going to do, you could always say that the other way is more strenuous. So you're not gaining. So one thing it's more strenuous because it's heavier, and the other way it's more strenuous because it's many more times. So the fact is it's more strenuous, so you're not gaining anything. That's called EF Shaloshanis. Anyway, so we have a different EITZA. What?
Everything we're talking about is carrying in Rishus Rabbim, outside, not privately in your house. It doesn't matter, right?
So technically it should matter in your house also. You can't do exercise in your house.
So just wondering whether you don't want to give it the appearance.
We're not discussing. Let me just clarify. We're not discussing the problem of carrying. We're discussing the problem of strenuous activity. Okay. So maybe I should cover it with a cover. Zimnin the nafal va'asi la'asuye. It might fall down and you might carry for no reason. Tiktari, maybe I should tie it. Zimnin the mafsik va'asi la'miktari. Maybe it'll untie and then they're going to come to tie, which is isur deraisa on yantav. I'll make a knot. Tifra sudar luya. Why don't I spread a piece of material on top? Zimnin the matmish b'may. Maybe it might fall into the barrel, into the water. Va'asi de skita, and then they'll take it out and they'll come to squeeze, and squeezing is asur. Therefore, it's not possible to change and differentiate between the weekday activity and the yantav activity. So therefore, they just do it the same way.
Yeah, so they were talking about also before, we're changing a pole, carrying it this way, that way. It's not strenuous activity. It's doing it in a different manner. So that's what I was talking about. Is that even inside a person's own house? Does it matter?
So it seems that I don't know. Look at the first Rashi, the parak. Rashi says b'seichat chum oyel de'eruv. Rashi says that the carrying is not a problem. It's just it's a problem of strenuous activity. So it should be even in a person's house. Amalei Rava bar Avchanan la'Abaya. Rava bar Avchanan said to Abaya, Tanan. So now we'll learn about halacha, about making a mecha and objecting to people that do something wrong. So we learned before that if you see a woman carrying and she's not doing it correctly, the Gemara said that you have to object, you have to be meich, you have to tell them they're doing the wrong thing. So the Gemara says, is this the case across the board? You always, whenever you see somebody doing a very, you should tell them. You're not allowed to clap on Shabbos. I know some people don't know that's halacha. You're not supposed to clap on Shabbos. And you don't clap your shoulders or and you don't dance. You're not allowed to dance on Shabbos because all these are exera that they're what? That's the halacha.
The rabbi had found a heter to clapping.
Yeah, there's a heter. There are lenient sides to it, but across the board, Mishaburu says clearly. The Gemaras in a few places, the Rishonim say clearly that you're not allowed to do it. Go ask your local rabbi. So anyway. And you're not allowed to dance on Shabbos, Yontif, but there's another halacha attached to it, and that's why you'll never see somebody being moicha and saying they're not allowed to do it. Why? But we see today that people do it, and nobody tells them anything. And according to you, you're supposed to protest, supposed to make a machal when somebody does something wrong. But according to you, that you always, whenever you see somebody doing something wrong, being Mechal Shabbos or whatever, you should go and tell them that they're being Mechal Shabbos. So we have a case that if you have a mavi is an alleyway. Now, alleyway is Rosh Hashanah, and it leads to a street, which is Rosh Hashanah. So the Chacham said that you have to make a lechi, you have to differentiate between the Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah, and therefore not to come to carry in the Rosh Hashanah. A person should not sit at the edge, right by the lechi. Why? Because because it's very easy for something to roll out and move out of the mavi, and then you're going to come carry from Rishus Yachid to Rishus Rabbi. We see people, women, stand there with the barrels, and they stand at the edge by the lechi, and nobody protests, nobody makes a machal. So what's the reason why you don't make a machal? Let's say you see somebody be machal Shabbos. This happens many times. If you see somebody be machal Shabbos,
they'll be amazing.
Right. So that's what it says. Leave Klal Yisrael mutif sheyushaygen v'al mezidin. It's better that they should do it b'shaygig than do it on purpose. So a lot of times you know somebody, if you'll correct them, they'll change. That's great. But if you correct them and you know they won't change, then it's better that you should leave them and should do it b'shaygig rather than do it b'mezid. Hachinami. So therefore over here too, hanach laim liyisrael, because it's better to leave people that are clapping because they won't change. So it's better to leave them, let them clap and let them dance. Motiv shiyu shaygim v'ayu mezid, and it's better that they should do it by mistake than do it on purpose. So Gemara says v'hanimi b'derabanan. Clapping and dancing is only b'derabanan because it's the gzeira that I might come to make instruments on Shabbos or Yantif. So that's very well by the Rabbanah. By the Raizel, by the Raizel, you do have to protest. You do have to make a machas. You see somebody doing something on Shabbos, I don't know, driving, whatever, you have to protest. V'lohi, lo yishna by the Raizel, v'lo yishna by the Rabbanah. I just want to point out that the protest doesn't always mean yelling and screaming. The idea of a protest is to get the person to change. So to get the person to change, a lot of times there's a long-term protest. So you can invite the guy over for a meal on Shabbos and explain to him the value of Shabbos. What?
Can't drive to your house.
Can't drive. Okay. And the truth is that there's no difference between the rice and the rabbanon. It's better not to say anything. Though Taisus Yom Kippur, and I'll prove it to you why. Because Taisus Yom Kippur, to add on time of during the day of Erev Yom Kippur, to add on to Yom Kippur is the Raizel. You have to add on. We learn that from the pasuk. You have to fast on the ninth day also. Yet people eat and drink till nighttime. Nobody tells them anything. Obviously, because you don't have to. It's better that people should do it by mistake rather than do it on purpose. Okay, so now we learned the other part of the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, you're allowed to go to the storage of the straw and use the straw out of the storage, even though it was not in mind, you did not have in mind to use it. Why? Because there's no problem of muktzah. When you don't have in mind to use something, then that's muktzah. But it seems from the first part of the Mishnah that it's not a problem. So the Gemara says, Amar of Kana Zaysim Erasim Schilim BAYT Tchila Mani. Who's is going according to that it permits using something that you did not have in mind to use? Reb Shimoni, obviously is going according to Reb Shimon, the less than muktzah. Reb Shimon does not hold of muktzah. So even something that's muktzah is out of his mind, it's still mutter. Ema Seifa. The problem is, if you tell me the Seifa says, you're not allowed to use eitzim that are in the back of the house because the person does not have in mind to use it. So obviously we see that it's also Rabbi Yehuda. Obviously it's going according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Islam muktzah, which holds of muktzah. So it's a problem. You can't have one sentence, one halacha going according to Rabbi Shimon, the next halacha going according to Rabbi Yehuda. So Gemara says, no, you know why over here? Really, the truth is we don't know the muktzah. However, we're talking about male and female cedar trees. Now, these cedars are not meant to use as wood. They're only meant to use as building material. You're not allowed to build on yantif. So therefore, it's definitely muktzah. The muktzah machmas ksar and kiss is considered muktzah machmas ksar and kiss. Reb Shimon Maida, even in that case, Reb Shimon agrees that there's muktzah. So you're right. Reb Shimon holds that there's no muktzah in a case of something that's out of your mind. But something that's out of your mind because it's ksar and kiss, because it's valuable, like the classic case is a knife of a male, then that is considered muktzah even according to Reb Shimon. So over here also, when this is building material because it's too valuable to use as firewood, then it's muktzah. Sefer, those who learn the opposite, they learn on the sefer as follows: you're not allowed to use wood. Obviously, you're not allowed to use things that are in storage. Obviously, it's going according to Rabbi Yehuda that holds of muktzah. Rabbi Yehudi, the Islam muktzah, which holds of muktzah. Ema Reisha. The problem is, if you say the first case, let's see the first case. Maskilim ba'ramas heaven. And you says you're allowed to use straw. Aslan Reb Shimon. Obviously, that goes according to Reb Shimon. The lesson muktzah, which does not hold of muktzah. Hasam. So the Gemara says no. Hasam etavno saria. We're talking about already straw that's decomposing, and it can't be used as food. So Hasam Tavnesaria Chazalitina. So the Gemara says I don't understand. It can be used as as a building material. So normally it seems that straw that started decomposing was used as building material. So then if it's used as building material, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, it should be out of his mind because you can't build on Yontif.
Well, he used it in Menachem to make bricks.
Make bricks. So you don't use that on Yontif, right? You're not using Yontif, so then it should be muktzah according to him. So you say, the ispe kaitzim, it has thorns in it or something, and I would use it for. I can't use it for building material. I use it for other.
You can't mix it by hand because the thorns are feet.
Right. The thing is like this. Regarding muktzah, there's another issue over here. The fact is that even Reb Shimon, everybody holds that you're not allowed to destroy a building, right? You're not allowed to take apart a building. So we'll see that the Mishnah says that ain't noitan eitzim in a sukkah. So a building, a sukkah, a structure is a sukkah. A sukkah on Yantif, we'll see just any tent, any structure, a gazebo or whatever the pergola, whatever they call it. So anyway, ain't noitan eitzim in a sukkah, elam in a samachla. You're not allowed to take out wood from a sukkah, elam in a samachla, only if it is close to him. We'll see what a samachla means. Close to her, close to the sukkah. We'll see the Gemara. Why are you not allowed to take out wood from a sukkah? Because that's demolishing a house, a structure. So if that's the case, if the problem is because stira, right, the destruction, demolition on Shabbos Yantiv, which is aser, so then so then things that are close to it is also aser. Why should that be any different? Now the thing is like this. At this point, the Gemara thinks that we're talking about, let's say, the schach that's on top of the on the roof, the schach. So taking off the schach is always demolishing, right? When you take off the schach, that's taking off an integral part of the structure. So if it's close, why is that any better?
Well, like the wall?
So let's say it's close to the wall. Why is it better?
They're not part of the wall? Or?
We're talking about extra stuff. You got tons and tons of things.
So let's see the Gemara. Amar Yehuda. Let's see the Gemara. Amar Yehuda. Amar Shmuel. My samach l'tfanis. You know what close means? Close means close to the walls. So if it's close to the walls, then it's not ruining the structure because it's very close. It's very. I'm sorry, it's close. It's not close on the roof. It's close to the wall. So let's say it's using it to reinforce the walls, but it's not part of the walls, and then it would be mutter. We're talking about over there. We're talking about a case that it's not close to the walls. We're not talking about a case that's on the walls. Rather, we're talking about a case that's actually on the schach itself. Yet it's still mutter. Why is it mutter? Because it's tied up in bundles, and when it's tied up in bundles, it's not part of the schach. It's a separate part, and obviously you had in mind to use it, so therefore it's mutter. We learned that you're only allowed to take wood that's close. Reb Shimon matir, and Reb Shimon holds that it's mutter even from the schach. Because Reb Shimon does not hold of muktzah. So the Gemara says, what does muktzah help you? The fact is, forget about muktzah. So let's back up a second. Normally a person puts up schach on the sukkah. So he's mekatza daite, he sets it out of his mind. That's it. That's part of the structure. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, just as muktzah, you're not allowed to touch it. Reb Shimon holds you're allowed to because Reb Shimon doesn't hold of muktzah. So the Gemara asks, I don't understand. What does this have to do with muktzah? Regardless, it's still usher because the fact is that it's al-stira should be usher because you're destroying the structure. So even Reb Shimon holds that it's usher to take apart a structure. I'm taking apart the oil. We're talking about over here that this sukkah, you're right, it was a structure, but it fell apart. So now the problem of a sukkah that fell apart, some structure that's totally on the ground, there's nothing to it anymore. So because of demolition is not a problem because it's not a structure anymore. However, if you hold of muktzah, then you can't touch it. Why? Because before Yantiv I put it up, not to touch. Right, I set aside my mind from it. That was mekatza daite. So therefore, I'm not allowed to touch it. But according to Reb Shimon, he doesn't have muktzah. So therefore, it's mutter according to Reb Shimon, and according to Reb Yehuda, it's not.
So it wouldn't help for me to designate this thing if it's still a structure,
right?
Because I still have a problem.
Like you're saying, according to Reb Yehuda,
I mean, it might be mechen, but it doesn't help being mechen.
Right. Okay, so we'll see the Gemara a little. Maybe some cases we can. Let's see. So the Gemara says like this: Amar Menachem Yitzchak Hacha B'Sukkah Nefel Saskina. Reb Shimon L'Tamei. Reb Shimon goes according to his own shita. The less muktzah, Reb Shimon does not hold muktzah. The Tanya Moiser. How do we know what's the shita of Reb Shimon? In Tanya, we learned there's extra oil in a candle, or like a bigger, I think like a lamp or something. Usser, it's usser to touch. Why? Because you have to understand like this. Let's say I take olive oil and I use it as a candle. Now, 2 hours later, for some reason, it goes out. But now I have perfectly good olive oil. Why can't I use it for my salad? So we hold that it's usser. Why? Because I was mekatzadaita. That means when I put in the oil into the cup, I set it aside for lighting, for fire, which is also to touch on Shabbos.
What if you put it aside for fire, and if it goes out, you say...
That's what you're going to say next.
So let's see. So the Gemara says like this. So if I said it clearly, I don't know, it could still be a problem. But let's see the next case. So the Gemara says like this. Rav Shimon Matir, Rav Shimon holds mutter. So the Gemara says, you can't tell me, so the same thing over here also. What happens like this. If something that's muktzah, let's say I have a sukkah, and I make a structure. So as long as the structure is still standing, I can't touch it, even according to Rav Shimon. Why? Because it's destroying it, right? But however, once the structure is not standing anymore, so it's like the candle that went out. So now I can use the bundle of wood, let's say in Yantif, I can use it to make a fire. So according to Rav Shimon, it should be mutter, and that's so the Gemara is comparing it to the case of candles. The Gemara says you can't compare. Why? Rav Shimon matter, me dummy, you can't compare. Hasam, by the candle, a person waits, he knows that it won't last the oil, there will still be some leftover oil, so he's waiting to have some leftover oil to be able to use. However, a person sitting in a structure, in the tent, or sukkah, a person you got to sing the song a little differently. So a person doesn't wait for the structure to fall apart, right? He wants it to last as long as possible. So therefore, his mind is not on it at all. Amar of Menachem Yitzchak, Hacha B'Sukkah Ruyaskin on the Ma'asmal Daite Iluye. You know what's going on over here? We're talking about that it's a shaky structure. It's a Trantonian winter, and you know that it's very windy and it's not going to last a full day or another day. So your mind is on it, and you can't wait to be able to have some firewood to get a little warmer. And so therefore, it's exactly like the case of the candle. Okay. Now the question is like this. Till now it wasn't so clear what kind of sukkah are we talking about. Are we talking about a sukkah of Yom Tov Sukkos? Or are we talking about a regular tent or something, some hut? What? A hut, a shack. So the halacha is like this. Let's see. So you say, V'shavin b'sukkos achag b'chag shi'asura. Everybody agrees that schach, or schach on Yom Tov Sukkos is aser. Shi'asura v'im hisna aleha hakal lefi t'nai. However, if he made a t'nai, and he said that this sukkah should only be a sukkah for the first 2 days of Yantif, then that's a good Tanai. What's that? Oh, great question. Let's see the Gemara. Very good. In fact, the Gemara, who says that a Tanai works, meaning that you could make a sukkah only for a partial yantiv, only for part of the sukkahs. How do I know that the wood of a sukkah is aser all 7 days? We learned that Chag sukkah should be a yantiv sukkah shivas yom l'Hashem for 7 days. The same way a chagiga, it has a kedusha to it and it lasts throughout. So too, there's a kedusha on sukkahs, and it's mashma from the pasuk that the kedusha is for 7 days and not less. Just like the chagiga is Hashem, afsukkah Hashem, so too is the sukkah for 7 days. Okay, so we have a problem over here. So how can you tell me that a Tanai works to make the kedusha less than the whole yantiv? We learned that the kedusha of Sukkot is for a full 7 days, and we learned that from a pasuk. Amar Rav Menashe Berei de Rava, Amar Rav Menashe Amar Shmuel. The Bach changed the girsa. Seifa asan l'sukkah da alma. The seifa part where we say that it's mutter with a Tanai, that's talking about not in sukkahs. It's just talking about a hut. Al v'sukkah the mitzvah, but sukkah of yantiv sukkahs, le'mahani but Tanai doesn't help. Tanai doesn't help
because it's set for
because it's set dafka for 7 days. You learn from the pasuk that you cannot make it any less than 7 days. So automatically it takes on muktzah, it takes on everything.
These pop-up sukkahs. Is the problem because it's a sukkah you don't, and you can't take down the mitzvah, or because it's muktzah?
Both. They go hand in hand.
I can't.
Meaning yes. So from this Gemara. Okay, it doesn't mean we pass in this way. From this Gemara, like a sukkah. We learned this in sukkahs that a sukkah is only for 7 days. It seems like you can't. And not only that, you can't build a sukkah on the 3rd day of Chol Hamoed because it's not a sukkah of 7 days. Okay. The sukkah the mitzvah loy. So the Gemara says at this point you're telling me that a sukkah mitzvah of Yantav Sukkos is not allowed to be less than any 7 days. Vatanya, we learned tzchacha kil chasa, sichacha kil chasa, va'atara b'kram. What happens if I decorated the decorations of sukkahs of the sukkah? Sichacha kil chasa I put on schach, va'atara b'kramim, ubasadinin I put on different tapestry, ubasadinin mitziyarim, v'tolava geizim, and I hang walnuts, shkedim, almonds, farsikin, peaches, remainim, and pomegranates, v'chila and ovim, and bunches of grapes. Yeno, shmanim, v'siltos, wine, oil, and fine flour, v'tara shabalim, and like grain. Asr l'stapik men ad motzi yantav achron shachag. You're not allowed to touch it till the end of Yantav Sukkos because it is muktzah. V'him hisna aleim. However, if I make a t'nai in it, hakal fi t'nai. So let's back up. So you're telling me that a sukkah is muktzah and is also for the whole sukkah for 7 full days. What do you mean? We learned that sukkah decorations is also for full 7 days. However, if I make it t'nai for 2 days, then it's only also for 2 days. So this should be the exact same halacha as the schach itself. So the Gemara says, what happens like this? All these decorations that we listed above are really usable because I could either decorate a sukkah with pomegranates or I can eat it. So when a person stands bein hashmashas, he says, listen, you see all this decoration? I'm hanging on to it. Right? It's still mine. I'm still going to use it. So then the klal of muktzah is that it's dependent on bein hashmashas. Whatever's muktzah, bein hashmashas is muktzah for the rest of the day, the rest of the yantiv. So these decorations did not become muktzah because he was still connected. He still said he might use them on yantiv. So therefore, if he did it kol bein hashmashas, kedusha alayu, so it doesn't get the kedusha and it does not become muktzah. However, this shtick I can't do for schach. Why? Aval atzei sukkah the chol kedusha alayu is katzor shiva because the problem is like this: the wood of the sukkah of the schach is muktzah. There's nothing I can do with it. What am I going to do with it? Bein hashmashas. So therefore, I can't hold on to it. I have to make a part of the sukkah. And therefore, it's not possible to not make muktzah, to make it not muktzah, bein hashmashas. Therefore, automatically it becomes muktzah, and once it becomes the chol kedusha alayu, it's katzor l'shiva. Automatically, it stays for 7 days. So the Gemara says, "Ma'ishna mahadi itmar." So you're telling me. So let's back up. So you're telling me that sukkah is dafka for full 7 days, and there's no way to make it less than that. Let's say with a tanai. And the full 7 days is looked at as one long yontif. What do you mean? We learned We learned. What happens if a person sets aside 7 esrogim for 7 days? That means a different esrog for every day. Right? Every day gets a different esrog. Amarav, fresh, beautiful. Amarav, kol achas yitzaba va'oichlol altar. So when is the mitzvah done with it? Rav says that right when I'm done shaking the lulav and esrog, and then the mitzvah is done that day, and it doesn't have any kedusha once I'm finished with the mitzvah, and I can eat it right away. Ravasi agrees technically to the halacha that it's separate a mitzvah. However, he says Ravasi Amar kol achas yitzaba va'oichlol macher. That day it still has the kedusha, but the next day it doesn't have the kedusha. So he agrees to the halacha that every day is different, but he just says that day it still has the kedusha. You have to wait till the next day to eat it. So we see clearly, regardless, according to both Rav and Rabashi, we see clearly that every day is a different kedusha, and it doesn't go throughout the whole 7 days.
It says that's you don't have to take 7 days. Only the sukkah you have to use.
So let's see. So the Gemara says Hasam. No. We learned over there also it has to be for 7 days.
Yeah,
so the Gemara says Hasam the mafsaku leilas miyamim kol chad v'chad yomim mitzvah pei nafshei. We say over there because the nights is not a time of taking lulav and esrog. So therefore, it differentiates. It separates from day to day. So therefore, it becomes a whole new mitzvah. Every single day, esrog is a new mitzvah. But over here, sleeping in the sukkah is also part of sukkah. So it's a 24/7 mitzvah. Right, only for 7. 24/7 mitzvah. So lemafsek leis miyam kulu yoyim kechada yoyim arichta dami. So yoyim kechada kulu yoyim kechada yoyim arichta dami. So therefore, everything's like 1 day. It's considered one long day, and therefore you need it for 7 days. So tonight would not help on the actual sukkah itself, and I need it for 7 days. Okay.